Hwang. Let them do their own introductions. Again, there's going to be a little bell at 5 minutes for the end introductions, and we'll start with questions.
I'm Hwang, and I'm running for state senate. I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am, who I'm running. I am the daughter of immigrants who really struggled and fought to stay in the middle class. And I remember growing up how much my parents worried about money all the time. And as much as they tried to shield me and my brother from it, that feeling like the bottom was going to just fall out from under us, that feeling of insecurity and instability, that was always there, and that's always stayed with me. And there was a moment in time when my mom lost her job, and then my dad lost his job, and that was my parents' worst fears come true. I think that my story is the story of this district. This incredibly diverse district, as Jason listed, spans from East Boston with Revere, North End, Chinatown, loops around Cambridge. But no matter who you are or where you come from, whether you immigrated here 100 years ago from Southern Italy or Ireland, or 10 years ago from El Salvador, we all share very similar hopes and aspirations, but we also share very similar fears and frustrations that we're not being heard. I believe that the person representing this district needs to not only understand the issues facing the people of this district and be willing to fight for them, but also has to be someone who has really lived that struggle. I've spent my entire career working within the system to make change for our communities. And that involves being the only aide to the state representative who wrote the original Affordable Care Act, who was fighting for addiction treatment, expanding funding for addiction treatment support 10 years ago, increasing and expanding the senior circuit breaker 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there was only 25% women legislators, and that actually 10 years ago later, today, that hasn't changed at all. We're supposed to be the state that is so forward-looking and progressive, but when it comes to government looking like us, it doesn't. So I wanted to work to amplify women's voices in the State House, and was the executive director of the Caucus of Women Legislators, and worked on domestic violence issues, healthcare, women's access to healthcare, and public education, because I believe that if you directly work on the issues impacting women, that all families benefit. And then I actually wanted to do something about the fact that there was so little diversity. Not only were there so few women, but I was the only Asian American in that building 10 years ago. And I wanted to do something about it. I realized you couldn't cross your fingers and hope things will change. You have to actually attack the problem at its root. And so I started the country's only political leadership organization for Asian American women. And it was really, how do you make change? You have to build the infrastructure, you have to build the pipeline, and really train young women. We recruited 50 young, low-income immigrant Asian American women who feel most disconnected from government, but need government the most. And we brought them in. We trained them, we mentored them, we supported them. 7 years later, we graduated almost 50 who are now able to bring the State House back to their community. And I just want to tell the story of one young woman from the district. She grew up, raised by a single mother in low-income housing in the district. And her mom struggled with her English, so she served as her translator. And she had always volunteered in the district, but she felt disconnected. She felt a little isolated. And through the program, I got to watch her find her voice. And now she's an emerging leader in the Chinatown Residents Association, helping non-English speaking elderly find their voice, and is also on Mayor Walsh's 1 in 3 Council, really able to combine government with community. And that's just one of 50 stories of the young women who graduated from the program. Because it's really about, it's hard to see yourself and imagine that you belong in government if you don't see faces like yours. And it's about whether we're really working towards an inclusive democracy. I've spent my entire career advocating for and fighting for women, immigrants, and working families, because that's who I am and that's where I come from. And in order to do that, I built coalitions and built lasting relationships that mean I can hit the ground running on day one. And the state center from this district will start in the middle of the Senate budget, meaning there's no time to waste and no time to learn. I'm so proud to be endorsed by the only 2 women of color in the state Senate, but also be building a coalition that includes amazing supporters like Claire and Catherine from the North End, but also captains in all of our neighborhoods. And that is the kind of state senator that this district needs, someone who can really build bridges across the entire district. And it's how you can win, but also the kind of state senator that should represent this district.
No, that's,
but I.
yeah, we won't do So I'm going to open a question for the committee. I know Dan and John asked questions. Anyone else
I
particularly?
asked that same question.
Are you guys going to ask the same questions, most likely? No. Okay. I'm going to go with Dan because he's a wild card tonight.
Why do you think I have a question?
I don't know, usually.
But I do.
Laurie tells me all.
We've known each other for many years, and you know, you've done a lot of great work in the State House and Women's Caucus and worked for the state reps. So I know you know your way around. So if you were to win, or what do you envision the committees in the Senate? You automatically become a chairperson.
Yeah.
But what committee would you like to have, other than Ways and Means, because you're not getting it? What
They
committee?
work their way up to
Oh,
that.
what committee would you like to see yourself on and why?
Do I get to just be Senate President?
You
Okay.
could.
Do you really want that?
Okay, so you already took out Ways and Means.
I already got Ways and Means. So what committee do you think you would love to have and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely like to serve on the Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities. I think that's really what's important to all of us is, you know, ensuring that there are after-school programs and summer jobs. When we're talking about violence in our communities, we should be talking about law enforcement, but also providing a continuum of support for our youth, right? And that means after-school programs and summer jobs and making sure that everyone has good access to a good education. So I'd also love to serve on the committee on education. But those are two really good.
I'm gonna ask my same question because I'm curious.
Sorry, can you remind me?
Yeah, no, just as you canvass the district,
Yeah.
you know, and you listen to a lot of people, what have you learned, what would be the number one issue confronting our district?
I don't think that it's that different from neighborhood to neighborhood. I think we all want to live in neighborhoods that are vibrant, right? That have access to good, reliable public transportation. I mean, I was really proud to join with Linda Dorsina Forey and Senator Sonia Shane-Diaz to call for the reversal of the cut to late night service. We're increasing fares and, you know, really on the backs of low-income people and seniors. And I think we need to be talking about more revenue because the things that we all care about need more revenue. So I would support the millionaire's tax to actually do that. But I think that it's really not that different. We all want housing of all different kinds in our communities. We want parks, we want reliable transportation, we want small businesses. So I think that that's something that we all share about the district. Thanks for
John?
Hi, do you want me to repeat mine as well?
Oh yeah, could you? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
I know, I heard it.
It's just in regards to local control of certain items that have been an issue, just specifically the late night task force and things like that as they relate to my position as a member of the North End Neighborhood Council. We see this a lot, so I was just wondering whether you support local control. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, to Mayor Riz's point, each city town is different, right? And so for that to be something that's decided at the state level is a little insulting to towns and cities. And I think it needs to go back to local control.
Just to kind of follow up, so it's good, you know, like all alcohol license expansion
Yeah,
or
exactly.
late night,
Absolutely.
4 a.m. Can you
Absolutely.
touch on those issues?
Particularly with the liquor licensing.
Because I
but-
think in the North End, and I'm sure in Chinatown, where, you know, we have a vibrant residential community, obviously, but a vibrant business community, maybe it's different than, you know, another neighborhood who doesn't have what we have on Hanover Street, or, you know, Faneuil Hall's so next door, so extending 4 a.m. in Faneuil Hall does affect the North End. So
Absolutely.
can you touch upon those issues?
I mean, I think that I thought Councilor Ayanna Presley's work has been really amazing to return local control, particularly around liquor licensing. I think it's exactly because each of the neighborhoods within cities and towns are different, have different needs and are different. Did that answer it? Sorry, it looks so.
No, it's more general, it isn't
Yeah,
so specific.
yeah. But specific to liquor licensing and like, so, yeah.
Any questions?
And where do you live?
I live in East Boston, sorry. Not in my stump speech at all, apparently, okay? Sorry about that. I live in the district, yes.
Let's hope so. No, I want to ask you on the charter schools, because people who couldn't be here tonight asked me to ask you questions. I touched on one. You touched on the late night service, the fatigue,
Yeah.
funding issue, is where you understand. But on charter schools, lifting the cap, it could be different what the proposal is at the legislature now. So, which general on charter schools and cap.
I strongly believe in public schools. I mean, the product of public schools. My public school education got me to Dartmouth. And I really believe in the power of public schools to break cycles of poverty and to educate immigrants and children of immigrants like me. But also, as I'm walking around the district, there are people who are worried about getting on the waiting list to charter schools because not all of our neighborhoods have I think we would all agree that not all of our schools in UPS are where we want them to be. And so, that's something that I'm hearing across the district. I think that for me, it's really about ensuring that all schools are picked up, that it isn't luck if you're able to go to a good school. And that means ensuring that all of our schools have adequate amount of funding. Chapter 70 has been level funded for the last couple of years, and that obviously has trickled down to our cities and towns and having to make really tough decisions about where to cut. And that's not the cities and towns' fault, that's the state's fault. What frustrates me about this charter school, the current debate, is that I feel like it takes place between two really powerful money interests. And really, it really should just be about making sure all of our children are able to be educated. And you don't hear the same drumbeat to lift the charter school cap in Lexington where all schools are uniformly good. But as state senator, I would ensure that all of our schools have the funding that they need. I would fight for an increase in Chapter 70 funding and really push for things like the millionaire's tax because we need to be talking about revenue because when we talk about cutting, it's to education, it's to these programs that are so essential to our communities. But I would support a moderate increase in the cap in underperforming districts, but also work to ensure that charter schools educate all students and that innovations are systematically shared with the public school system and that all the funding, that all our schools are getting the funding they need and that funding for charter schools doesn't come at the expense of public schools. So that's where I stand.
Oh, right over there.
My name is Susan Brennan, and I actually moved into the city after living in Division for many years, downsized.
Yeah.
And I live at Beverly Street, which is right on the end of the West End.
Yeah.
We have 275 people in our building. We have 25 people who are registered to vote. Many children are in the building and no one goes to school, so that's a huge advantage financially for the people who are living in the city. So I certainly would like to get the ball going for the next election, but after getting that list, the city hall is quite shocked.
Yeah.
However, many of the young children are getting ready for preschool.
Right.
Now, I have a very hard time understanding why there hasn't been a bigger influence on universal pre-kindergarten.
I agree. I completely agree.
I know my daughter's a principal at a charter school in Boston. I've been an educator for many, many years. I run an after-school program in Waltham. The level of disparity of children coming into the school in kindergarten, ready to learn is everything.
Yeah.
So if you get on that boat,
Yeah.
it's 3 o'clock. So I don't know why it hasn't been set up with the city of Boston or Revere or any of these areas, because they certainly, preschool is very, very expensive, and kids don't go. So the kids that don't go do not have the benefit. They're 2 years behind the 8th ball. The city of New York provides preschool for every single person in the city. So if they can do it, why isn't there an emphasis in our district.
Yeah.
It's not just Boston, I'm talking, trying to get across this way. Why isn't there any input?
It's state funding. It's all, it's about, I think,
But why is it state funding? Why is it city funding? Why, I understand that.
right,
The city provides the money for the school.
Right.
They expand the school program from the 3-year-olds. Why is it state funding?
because a lot of the money that the city gets is from Chapter 70. So they're educated, right? So I think that what happened in New York is that the state and city partnered together, and the state said that they would pay for early ed. So we need to, I mean, that's on whoever gets elected here. So I would.
So my thing is,
Yeah.
I would be, it's important to me
Yeah.
that people get in by a lottery. That
Yes.
your name comes up and
Sure.
you get to go to the preschool program for free
Yeah.
and your neighbor doesn't. I mean, it's just huge.
No, and I would push farther. I'd say that we need revenue because it shouldn't be luck, right?
Of course not.
Early,
no.
we know early ed, we know pre-K is what closes the achievement gap. We know that that's what breaks cycle.
Correct.
So we shouldn't be hassling over who, right? We need to have universal pre-K.
Okay.
And I think that's why we have to be talking about increasing revenue and ways to increase revenue. And that's why.
And
I was
making
going
it a
to-
priority.
Yes, absolutely. That would be a priority.
We have like a minute left, so I'm just gonna close out to say thanks
All right.
and do a minute to say one thing.
Please consider voting for me. Twice, both on the community business side and then actually as a board.